Hi, thanks for spending some time with me again today. We're going to look at Dvorak. And this Dvorak 8, of course you may be aware of the numbering changes that have taken place with Dvorak, but I believe it's currently Dvorak 8, is a very, this opening trumpet call is a great example of what playing in the orchestra is all about. So I'll go ahead and play it for you, and I'm going to try and do this before the thunderstorms hit, because I just got a text alert saying that severe storms are on their way. So if you hear anything rumbling, you'll know what it is. This is the first bar of the beginning of the fourth movement of Dvorak 8. Okay, I think I'll try that again. I'm going to point out a few things to listen for. You're basically just sustaining sound here, but with very marcato articulation. And so the time is very important. And again, you're playing in unison or in octaves much of the time when you're playing in the orchestra. And so that's something to always keep in mind. If you're just blasting away by yourself, then your inaccuracies are not going to have a bad effect, except on sensitive ears. But if you're playing with a partner, then you're going to want to make sure that you have a good blend. And when we practice these, we practice as if it was a solo. And it's not. It's not. It's part of the orchestra. You have a function to fulfill, and that's what you're doing here. So let me do it once again, see if I can do a little bit better job on it. And I'll give you a couple of suggestions. First suggestion is you don't know how long you're going to have to hold that last note. Some conductors like to hold it a very, very long time. So just a word to the wise, as they say, see if you can practice getting comfortable with just sustaining that note with a beautiful sound, blended sound, and a round sound, and a focused sound that's projecting but has quality to it with totally stable pitch. That's the job in the orchestra. That's what we're doing a lot of times. Now, many people find it difficult to get the quality of articulation, this marcato quality that's so necessary in a lot of orchestral trumpet playing. And the reason is it's about response. It's about the quickness of response. And we think it's about the tongue. So generally we try and tongue harder. And that's not it at all. If you just sustain a note with the most freedom that you can, so you have the ring in the sound. You don't feel like you're holding on physically to anything. You're simply flowing, flowing, flowing. When you get that, you're in the right place to get a good attack. If you're not in the quote-unquote center of the note, if you're not in that sweet spot, you're not going to get a good attack. Doesn't matter how hard you tongue it. And the tongue actually causes problems. I'll try and explain why quickly. I heard a radio broadcast one time with the Cleveland Orchestra, and it was Leonore. And the trumpet player played the first note, and it happened to be Bernie Edelstein, who is the great principal trumpet player of that orchestra for many, many years. And he hit the first note, and he just went, boo! It's kind of, I'm watching the Olympics a lot now, so it's kind of like falling off the balance beam, falling off the parallel bars. Not a good thing. And he just hit the note and it splattered and it went all around in a circle like this. and until finally stabilized. And I thought, what orchestra is this? But it was a live broadcast, and that can happen to anybody. Why? It's because he got a lot of pent-up energy. So he went like this, and he wasn't ready for it and miscalculated, and it just exploded. So it's a good way to practice this. Just do it with a breath. So instead of going, you're trying to find the sweet spot like I just did. So those are all breath attacks, which means that I'm getting a relatively quick response. Now the tongue helps a little bit. You can hear a little bit of like a hammer strike at the beginning. And a lot of that is timing. But think of it as, first, a direct relationship between the airstream, the airflow, and the aperture. If your aperture is tight, which it will be if you're going to try and, tongue the crap out of it, you're going to tend to be tight. You may splatter the note, or you may just scuff the note, or it may just kind of be not ringing in style, which ruins the whole point. So the best way to do this is take this kind of articulation into your scale practice. Take it into your setting up drills, for the first thing you do in the day. When you do that, then you're going to be practicing it with a musical purpose. And it's the same thing with the sustained notes at the end. You notice there's a long decrescendo. I'm having a little problem on that low note. Why? So I've been playing at the top of the staff, and then as I gradually go down, I'm still trying to kind of muscle the air a little bit, and I need to be much more, very affirmative, and much more gentle in what I'm doing with the flow, and then I won't be overblowing. So I'm just carrying the sound instead of pushing the sound. So if you have trouble holding the note in tune, have trouble getting a good sound, have trouble getting a clean, snappy attack, check what you're doing with the basic flow of the air. Are you driving it? Are you pushing it? Are you pressing with the air? Or are you flowing it? Are you overflowing it? Or are you underflowing it? And when you get that balanced out, you'll find that your attacks are just going to sparkle. So that's my advice on this one. I was going to look at Dvorak number 9 because it's basically the same thing. And this is one of the first orchestral pieces that I've ever played. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had a B-flat trumpet. I was in high school. I got drafted to play principal trumpet in the Northeastern New York State Student Orchestra, which was a college group. And but I don't know how I got picked, but somebody found out about me and they said, oh, this kid can play. So they put me in the orchestra. But the problem was I didn't know how to transpose. And Dvorak 9, the New World Symphony, the famous New World Symphony, is in the key of E. And when you're playing a B-flat trumpet, E transposition is rather challenging, especially when you have no idea what transposition is. So it was a total shock to my system, and I realized immediately that I was playing the wrong notes, figured out kind of what was going on, but couldn't transpose. So I went home right after the rehearsal and wrote out the entire part, and I still have that in my file. In B-flat so that I could play it. And then when I went to college, I had to learn how to transpose. So there you go. Work on your transposition. I guess that's the moral of that story. So I'm going to try and play this. I haven't prepared it, but hopefully you'll get something out of it. Ooh, that's exciting music. And when it gets exciting like that, we tend to, it's kind of like being a football player. When you're a football player, it's like you like the hits. It's like, wow, you get to really engage. And sometimes as trumpet players, we do the same thing. You need to be more like an airline pilot and recognize that people's lives depend on what you're doing. Just stay cool. Don't get too excited. Yes, you're flying a multi-million-dollar aircraft and people's lives depend on it, but just stay cool. So it's the same thing for us, but we're doing something physical, so that makes it really challenging. All the principles that I just mentioned for Dvorak 8 apply in Dvorak 9. But now you have a nice melody to play, and you have a lot of variety. You have staccato notes, you have accented notes, you have sustained notes. And most of all, and this is probably the primary thing I should draw your attention to, is you're playing in different octaves. So you finish in the lower octave, and then you jump in the upper octave, and the second trumpet player stays in the lower octave. So when you make that change, there's a very strong tendency for most players to kind of feel like they have to switch gears. You want to make those octaves feel as close together as possible. And the natural tendency is to overblow as you play higher. And then when you switch lower, you're trying to push too much air through the horn. You get out of balance, to put it simply. Now, what do? Well, check your tuner, for one. And then get used to staying open and not squeezing when you go into the upper register. And again, if you slow it down, if you play these things without the articulation first, you're trying to find that sweet spot, especially as you change octaves. Now here, you finish in one octave, there's a rest, and then you start in the new octave. Well, that causes a problem because you have a lot of chance to get tightened up in anticipation of playing higher. So a great thing to practice is sustain, take the rest out, and just sustain. So instead of a feeling of kind of, grinding gears and shifting, what you're trying to do is, rather, you're trying to do it like a slide. It's like a gliding sensation. And when you get it, you'll know because it feels really good. And it also allows you to have better control in the upper register. So I hope some of these hints, you'll find them, what I'm telling you, to be true in your own experience. And when you do, you'll know exactly what to practice. So thanks for spending the time with me today. And I hope you're still enjoying your practice. Come back and visit me when you have a chance. Have a great day. Bye-bye.